welcome to Do the Right Thing, your weekly writing prompt podcast. I'm Alexandra.
And I'm Jarvis.
Jarvis and I were aspiring writers with one problem very common to everyone who writes. This is already going really well.
And that problem that you beautifully stumbled all over is that we don't exactly take the time to sit down and write. So because of this, we are going to issue a challenge. Each week you sit down and write a complete short story using 3 or 4 randomly generated words.
Then we come on the podcast, we read a story, we talk about what we learned in reading it, and then we talk about the rest of the stories submitted by you wonderful listeners.
Exactamundo. We're simply here to help you do the right thing.
A Doof Media
Production.
Sorry, it's been a bit. It's been a bit since we've had like a consistent schedule, and I think I just my brain's been eroding in between recordings, and I forget how to do the intro. That's where I'm at.
It is perfectly fine. Literally before and after every recording, I'm either in class doing some sort of heinous project that isn't building to anything, or catching the few bits of sleep that I can actually get.
That's wonderful. I started waking up at 8 a.m. now because I have a job.
I'm sorry.
So,
ooh, job, money.
Mm-hmm. Job money, the B word, and hose? Is that...
Hose?
Hose.
Maybe pimps too.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep.
Anyway, guess what, y'all? It's spooky month. I'm so excited. I'm so excited for spooky stories because this is the best time for stories and everything in Doof Media and every other community that does stuff. It's great. I love it.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure. I don't know the numbers, but I'm pretty sure during this month, every podcast probably sees like record numbers, and there's probably a record amount of content being made during this month.
It certainly, I think that might be somewhat a little bit true. At the very least, better content because it's spooky, spooky is better. Speaking of, just to start things off, because I don't want to, let's just say it now. Doof Media is throwing a costume contest for Wild Bow related works. So if you've been wanting to do a Wild Bow cosplay from like Worm or Ward, Pact or Pale or Twig, then consider sending in some pictures and stuff because there's prizes to win and everything, and you're sharing with the community, and it's a lot of fun. We've done it a couple times in the past, and it was always really, really enjoyable.
Nice. That sounds so excited. And personally, I've been waiting for so long to dress up as Worm on Halloween, and this is finally my chance.
Yes, you can dress up as Worm. Yep. Please dress up as Worm, Jarvis.
Hey, listen, either that or a like OC My Hero character. Those are my only options.
Those are basically the same thing, aren't they?
Yeah, basically.
I mean, Worm is basically just My Hero Academia fanfic, if you think about it.
But which came first?
I'm pretty sure Worm came first, but...
You think so?
When did My Hero start coming out?
I don't know when the manga started. Probably like 2014.
I think Worm beats it by like 1 year.
Wow. So Shonen Jump just straight up ripped off Worm. That's crazy.
They did, and not even well.
Yeah. There are too many training arcs.
Too many training arcs.
My Hero, and not enough people dying, which
And just like stakes in general, and consistency, and just like, I don't know, things to care about. And that one arc is just a arena.
Which I mean, granted, that is a fun arc.
It's fun.
Yeah, but it doesn't beat biting someone 1,000 times with spiders until their heart explodes.
Or just biting their thumbs off.
I haven't seen that yet, but okay.
Or just running around naked, just except for painted black and white stripes all up and down your body. And then biting people's fingers off. And pushing your fingers through someone's eyes gently.
Ooh.
as if lulling them to sleep.
Okay.
You should get back to reading it, Jarvis.
I should. This sounds like a fantastic scene, whatever this character
was nice. Doing. It was nice.
Yeah. It seems very, like, heartwarming. Mm-hmm. More kind of like a family comedy vibe that I'm getting from it. So, yeah, maybe I can sit down and read it with my mother.
I wish I had the confidence to pull off one of the more risque Worm costumes. I almost said spoiler, but no. Never mind. Anyway, so there's a costume contest. You'll be recognized, and the winner of the contest receives $100, and the runner-up receives $25. So there's actual stakes here. You know, send in your stuff. It'll be great.
Cool. Well, all right. Don't you think we should roll on into whatever wonderful story we will be reading this week?
Yeah, I would love to do that. But first, what were the words this week? And just a quick reminder on what the theme is.
Yes, so the words for this week were needle, drop, chat, and work. And the theme for this entire month that has passed is a one-scene story. Mm-hmm. With
the idea of staying in a single room and or single room and scene and having it all contained in that. Do you know what story we're reading this week, Jarvis?
Yes. The story we will be reading is by MattSaidWords with an untitled story. Was
also thinking that we can assume that the title is the first set of all caps words, so it must be
Squee. Yeah, which was honestly a very avant-garde title. You know, very evocative in the overall undertones that are happening here.
Yeah, yep, absolutely. But without further ado, let me just take a nice little sip of H2O and get started. So this story is by MattSaidWords. A man in a wrinkled sport coat and jeans stepped into the lobby of this hotel. The place vibrated with people, their luggage making complicated rhythms as they pulled them across the hexagonal Spanish tile floor. Squee! Goddamn thing, Travis said, fiddling with the hearing aid attached to his head right above his right ear. He turned it down, and the squealing stopped. Wah! A child in the line near him said, clearly upset. I get how you feel, Travis thought, and turned his hearing aid from low to off. The din of the lobby subsided to no more than a sensation felt more through his chest and feet than his ears, which were admittedly useless. It was like lifting the needle from a record mid-track. He caught sight of the child wailing ahead in line, and thought for a moment he could still hear her, but knew this for his mind adding sounds where they ought to be. He wasn't born deaf, but so his brain could do this with uncanny accuracy. Travis found that he could sometimes hear better without his hearing aid if he simply focused his other senses on what he wanted to hear. Outside, an unprecedented snowstorm blustered and raged. Travis could hear the wind whistle past the eaves and buffet his ears, making a low, roaring sound in his head. Inside, the line loomed before Travis as shuffling feet inched forward over the tiled floor. Hundreds of people stranded at this hotel booked the last remaining rooms. He knew this because an elderly man had hunched over to him and the others in line, saying they would do their best to accommodate everyone, but that rooms were limited. All he could do was wait. He'd sleep in the lobby if they'd allow it, and, considering the circumstances, turning someone away might be tantamount to murder. This both comforted and frightened him. The lights in the lobby flickered briefly, then went out. The world became a Stygian pool, a vast nothing that Travis's remaining senses could not penetrate. As quickly as they'd gone out, The emergency lighting kicked on, revealing a very different scene than moments prior. People had their hands to their mouths, looking about in abject terror. The little girl wailing earlier was still crying, tears running down her cheeks in rivulets. The red light cast by the emergency lights made her tears look like blood running down her face. All at once he felt like crying himself, but swallowed the lump in his throat. He left his place in line, what remained of it anyway, and made his way to the little girl. Her mother stood nearby, but was otherwise preoccupied with her phone, fretfully typing out what was either a very long message, or possibly a novel. Travis never understood why those with perfectly good ears went so far out of their way to not use them to talk to people. "Hey there," Travis said to the crying girl. "My name is Travis. What's yours?" She stammered as her wailing ceased. My mom says we're not supposed to talk to strangers." "She's right, you shouldn't. But I'd like to show you something pretty neat." Travis reached into his inside coat pocket and took out what looked like a pair of old headphones. But not exactly. It had a band meant to go across the head. Where the speakers would have been, 2 flat brown pieces protruded. He took this and very gently placed it on the little girl's head, the brown pieces resting just above her ears. She took a slight step backward, but he could tell by her face, now, that she was intrigued. Travis mimed plugging his ears. He couldn't, actually, they were always stopped, but she copied him. Her eyes went from leaky puddles to pools of amazement. I can hear. But it sounds funny." At that moment, the mother noticed the man stoop next to her daughter and pocketed her phone. "Excuse me, what the hell do you think you're doing?" Travis stood and extended a hand to the woman. "My name's Travis." The woman did not accept the proffered hand. "I saw your..." Did he want to assume this was her daughter? "Little lady, having a bit of a day here, and thought I might be able to help." "Lucy, I can hear!" So, not her daughter after all, Travis thought, and mentally patted himself on the back. "Well, of course you can hear, Alice. Everyone can hear." But then she noticed Alice had her ears plugged good and tight, her ears wandering around the room in a look that Travis knew well. She was trying to hear everything in the room. Why not? It was like hearing for the first time. "I let her use my spare hearing aid," Travis said. "It works for anyone, unlike most hearing aids. It sends vibrations through the skull to vibrate the cochlea. It essentially replaces the eardrum to some extent. If you've never tried it before, it's quite an experience. I just thought it would take her mind off all this for a little while. I use it with my students sometimes when they need a distraction. It works remarkably well." The woman, Lucy as it turned out, had come over looking like she was ready to spar here in the lobby. But here, anger melted, revealing the fear that had frozen it there. "Well, thank you, but we really ought to be..." "Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen." The old man who had told them earlier about the shortage of rooms was speaking as loud as he could in his warbling old man's voice. Travis had only seen him from the corner of his vision by the red emergency lights, but heard him like he was speaking directly into his ear. The brain was an amazing thing, he thought, as he turned his hearing aid back on. "Our computers are down, but we will continue to check you all in as quickly as possible. Payment for the rooms will be taken upon your checkout tomorrow or whenever our systems come back up. We apologize, but we should be able to get you all booked and settled here shortly." "Bah," Travis said, switching his hearing aid off again. It must be the echo of this room messing with it. It usually performed much better than this. "Give the nice man his hearing aid back," Lucy said to Alice, stooping and removing the device from her head. Travis thought the girl would begin crying again, but she didn't. Lucy moved to give the odd device back to Travis, but stopped and just looked at it for a moment. "You can try it," Travis said, knowing that curious look. That was, by far, one of his favorite looks to see on a face. If his students had that look, they were ready for something new, ready for a challenge. He wondered when he last had that look on his own face. Months? Years? "Oh, wow," Lucy said as her face comically resembled little Alice's just a moment before. "Can you hear too?" Alice asked. "Yes, it's mechanical sounding? Electronic, somehow. Is this how you hear everything?" Travis, knowing he would likely never see this duo again, simply said, "Yep." The look this woman gave him was another he was all too familiar with. "Don't worry, it's not as horrible as you might think. To hear at all is truly a miracle in my case. Besides, I have a much nicer one right here," he said, pointing to a small black box mounted to a titanium stud and planted just over his right ear. Lucy removed the headband hearing aid and handed it back to Travis, who then dropped it back into his coat pocket. "Thank you. Travis, was it?" "Yes, and you are Lucy and Alice?" Yes, and..." "Next," the woman at the check-in counter said. "Thank you," Lucy finished, letting her eyes linger on Travis's for a moment before turning to the check-in counter. She tugged at Alice's hand, pulling her gently along as Alice waved to Travis. He waved back and tried a smile. For a wonder, it came, and she smiled back. In the coming hours, Travis would hold on to little Alice's smile like a drowning man clinging to a piece of driftwood.
All right. So yeah, this story is actually pretty sweet. I love how we start off with Travis. Typically in a story like this, where the man talking to the little girl, the trope of the man being creepy. But I do enjoy how this story started with Travis, so we can already sort of tell that isn't his intent, and it really becomes this very sweet scene where the mother comes in, understandably being a bit, or not the mother, but Lucy.
Yes.
Comes in being very, what's the word I am looking for? Defensive, right? Only for it to end up being a very sweet scene with Travis, basically showing Alice how, he sort of views the world, and they're both really, appreciating this. So yeah, I think that this is a really well crafted story that leaves us with surprisingly really good and comforting feelings. So yeah, I really like this.
Yeah. So, the older man giving something to a child and teaching them something I think is a really, strong trope to bring out here. It humanizes, or not humanizes, it makes the character more likable always, I think. And I think a main focus of the story is the, description of the hearing aid, I think, is a major factor, right? Yeah. I think you can tell that MattSaidWords has done at least some, either has experienced this himself or has done some research, and I think that is pretty cool. And I think it adds a lot, just not only to the description of the story, but also to the character and how they see the world. And again, not just in a description sense, but also, I don't know. I feel like you can get Travis's feelings about how to interact in social situations, and his perspective on I don't know, the fact that he tunes out the whole room when it is not really working for him, I think is an interesting one, and tells us a little bit about him, that he can just choose to do that, and other things along those lines.
Yeah, definitely. This story really puts most of its work in building this character of Travis. I think my favorite thing about this story, as soon as Travis starts talking to Alice, Alice is the believability of this interaction. Like, it's almost like I'm seeing it right before my eyes. Like, Alice basically saying that we shouldn't talk to strangers, and then Travis, letting Alice know, hey, yeah, you shouldn't talk to strangers, but please talk to me, right? And yeah, I just think that this story is like really perfectly crafted, to where we can completely see all of these characters. We believe in all of these characters. So yeah, I just think that this story is amazingly grounded. I mean, from the very beginning, we get this sense of place, and of course, the using the onomatopoeias is great. I love it when we see a good whiz bang boom. It's fantastic.
I disagree a little bit. I generally don't like,
you didn't like it.
Some onomatopoeias, at the very least, because I had to read them, and I never enjoy reading them out loud. I mean, because they always sound strange.
And then also, I do understand how some people can see onomatopoeias as a bit hacky,
like, I think they definitely have their place.
Yeah.
Like, I especially like the one later on where it's the old man talking that then degenerates into the squealing. I like that one a lot. Because it's we already have that direct showing with the dialogue, and then that transitioning into a sound I think is great, because it's like the words turning into that. But like, for example, the wailing kid at the beginning, I think I would have preferred if it was just like the kid wailed, or something like that. But yeah, it's also a matter of preference, and I don't have a definitive answer on when you should or shouldn't do that. But I think it's worth experimenting and then asking more people than just me and Jarvis, I think.
Yeah, because I mean, I feel that, like, I also really like when the dialogue does turn into that squill, right? But I do believe that portion wouldn't make that much sense if we didn't already see onomatopoeias being used as a device previously.
That's a factor, yeah.
Yeah, because once we get there, I can directly identify what is happening without them even really telling me, because I have already become accustomed to the usage of this tool. But yeah, I mean, your point is, of course, completely valid. I understand not liking them, because I used to hate them for a very long time, because it does, at least for like how I used to feel, it took me out of the story, but I feel that here it is being used pretty effectively, and I do and I do like how it's very sparse. It's not like every line. I think it only happens twice, right?
Twice, and then the old man, yes.
Yeah. So yeah, it's being used very, very sparsely as one of the many tools that are being implored here. So I think it works to push the story forward and really build out this world personally.
Sure. Yeah. In a comment, MattSaidWords says how this is an opening to what they want to do for a longer story, which is cool. I think I see hints of that in the spooky aspects, right? The sort of terror. Like when the lights came off, and then it says that the scene was one like of terror, right? Everyone is shocked. It's actually just because the lights went out, but I thought it was something like our main character had just turned off his hearing aid, and then something horrible could have been heard if he had it on, screaming of someone dying or something. But it wasn't that. And there's also the thing with the tears looking like blood. So I think this might be a bit of a supernatural story going forward. But none of that is necessarily in here. And I like it that way. But what I want to say is that this works as a self-contained thing, right? It's just a little, a one little scene where you're introduced with this character. We have them characterized. And I really like that last line there. In the coming hours, Travis would hold on to little Alice's smile like a drowning man clinging to a piece of driftwood, which I feel like if this was just a thing on its own, I would want just a little bit more setup of what those coming hours would have been like for him, like being all alone or something, or, does he have to go back outside or whatever else. But obviously this is something that would be revealed over further installments.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, I mean, like, as you said, I do enjoy how this story is very self-contained. How it's not concerned about, getting 10 different parts out there, right? But yeah, I think, if MattSaidWords does choose to continue this, as of right now, I think, your strongest suit is this situational character work that you are doing here. So yeah, I would love to see what can come after this, especially, with the character of Travis, who we have come to not fully know, not fully understand, but at least enjoy on the page.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, all right. I think that's about everything I really have to say about this great story. Of course, we've said it multiple times. It's great. It's good. We enjoy it.
Yeah, let's get into the listener submitted story section.
Exactly. Just as what I was about to say. So, this is the best section of Do the Right Thing. Thank you so much to everyone who did submit your story. Thank you to Sarah Penguin, and thank you to No Goodbye. So the first story we are going to be talking about this week is by Sarah Penguin with Crime Scene. Content warning, sexual assault and body horror.
Yeah, I like the title being just Crime Scene, just descriptive. Yes. I like it. It's fun. So we have this Detective James Matthews going into this crime scene in this abandoned building. We have like this the sensations of being in there described to us, the stench of urine and blood and rotting meat. So this person has been nailed to a wall and apparently mutilated in some sort of way. And our detective, James Matthews, talks to Detective Susan. And we have some rapport stuff going back and forth as they start to discuss the case. Basically, we get a picture that this is some sort of serial killer that's killing alleged rapists that didn't have evidence to bring them to court. And we have some stuff in the background of Detective Susan and a lot of implications of what sort of dynamic these crime solvers and serial killer are going to have.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I think that this story does a really good job of just sort of setting up this crime, giving us really great bits about this a murderer. I do enjoy how it isn't just he's just straight killing people. It seems that there is a purpose to the murderer's madness. So that's a nice aspect of this story. And yeah, I just think that this is setting up their dynamic very well. It's serious, but it's also playful. And I do like where this story ends, talking about basically how about next murder you get the coffee. So of course this story is very playful in the face of this dire topic. So yeah, overall, I really enjoyed it. I think that this is seeming like it's probably going to lead into more cases, more entries, and I am welcoming that.
Yeah, if I am going to give a critique, I think it would just be to slow down. I really liked the beginning, especially because we have wrapping at this crime scene. There's this graffiti. We go in, there's this interaction with a police officer getting a little bit of James. We get hit with that. We're in an abandoned building, and then we get hit with that stench of rotting meat. And then I think I feel like we did get a bit about the room, but for example, like, I feel like the story should have paused for a good, like solid paragraph to describe like the victim or like the room and then the victim, just to give it a little bit of space, and like to pause there for a moment as we see this like grisly scene, right? And we open on what sort of stuff this serial killer does. And then there's a couple other bits, like in the middle of dialogue, for example, there could have been more pauses of description of what characters are doing. For example, when she receives the arrest records, for example, I wouldn't have minded like a sentence between her receiving the records and her, like a description of her scrolling through it and maybe the expression her face makes, or maybe she's getting frustrated not finding what she wants, or whatever else, but a moment to sort of draw that out a bit, because I felt that a lot of the like actions and dialogue did go by a little quick.
Yeah, no, I can definitely see that. This definitely has a quicker pace, which, of course, I can really chalk that up to it being only 30 minutes. You don't have a whole lot of time, to fill out all of those movements and scenes and expressions when you're trying to rush towards the end. But yeah, definitely on a second draft, really focusing on that pacing and also focusing on purpose. I can definitely elevate this story to the
When you
next
say
level.
purpose, what are you referring to?
Oh, well, I mean, so this whole scene is, of course, setting up these characters, right? Which, of course, is purposeful within itself. But I think, like...
I think I see what you mean. Because stuff about, like, what the message is with, like, the characters interacting with the scene.
Yes,
maybe?
like after seeing both of these characters talk and seeing them talk about the case, what is pushing this story forward about this scene? Granted, saying if this is a larger story, what function would this section serve in a wider story besides just developing character?
So, well, I mean, I think it sets up the plot that they're going to be solving these things. But I think, maybe having a little bit of I know there is a bit of character motivation. There's sort of a bit of a contest between the killer and Detective Susan about her trying to do things by the law and this serial killer killing what they think are for sure bad people, right? That certain, even though they don't have enough evidence that would go with the law, right?
Yeah.
Which is not necessarily that it's wrong, but there's a controversy there, obviously. But I think having a bit of like the characters' feelings about it, especially like at the end, perhaps, like one lingering look at the victim, not even and maybe describing like one particular aspect and just. What does James Matthew feel about this, or what does Susan feel about this in a line of dialogue, right? And how does that? It's sort of just leave us with a feeling, I think.
Yes, and I think that's what I really mean by purpose. Leave us with something that makes us care a bit deeper, so that as we continue to read, we have a purpose to continue to read, really.
What is going to be challenged on the part of these characters, right?
But of course, as is, this is a great baseline for a grander, better story that you're gonna build. So,
and I do very much like the dialogue that is in the story as well.
Very much so. Yeah, definitely. So thank you very much to Sarah Penguin. And up next is by No Goodbye with PvP.
Which is a fun title. So we have the aftermath of some big anime-esque fight between a tiger heart mech and our main character Heartbreaker. So we get the world building here. Basically, Heartbreaker and Tiger Heartmech are these sort of mechanical, superpowered beings that were created by humans, but are sort of superseding them. That are built of these like heart cells that can be used to modify their bodies on the fly, and to grow or maintain themselves. So not entirely sure the nitty gritty of it, but they have to consume each other, fight and hunt each other to feed and get energy and more heart cells, I assume. And so our main character here, Heartbreaker, has essentially lost a fight. They have a bit of banter back and forth. We get some implication of what the world is like before Tiger is like choking her, until we reveal that, what does Heartbreaker have that Tiger Heartmech does not? The power of friendship. Yes. And a human comes in, hacks Tiger Heartmech, and she's able to win the fight. And we finish off with a little bit of dialogue between her and the human, and how they're worried about her. She always like pushes herself too much, but also how it's like dangerous in the first place, so she kind of has to. And we get what their dynamic is a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, this is a really fun story. As I was reading it, I was thinking, wow, this will be a fantastic MMO RPG. I would play it to death. But yeah, I do like it. I think that the biggest thing here is that there's some really great world building going on. The dynamic at the end between a Heartbreaker and their friend was pretty nice, and I think some of the action was actually pretty well explained. So yeah, I mean, overall, this is a really nice story. I think, yeah, of course, the biggest thing here for me is the world building. Also, I'm a sucker for mechs, so this is just really filling a void within my blackened heart.
Yeah, and I'm a sucker for shapeshifting stuff, so I think this hits the mark for both of us on what kind of action and whatnot that we like. Yeah, I mean, I was interested in more, even more between the human character and our Heartbreaker here. I suppose that would be the main thing. I think it definitely does what it set out to do very well. I wanted more, that's all. Yeah,
true.
Which is to do the right thing story, so I'm not really complaining. Just yeah.
But yeah, this will be a really good breeding grounds for maybe a different, or just taking this story further in the future if you do decide to do that. Well, all right, those are all of the stories for this week. So we would like to say thank you to everyone who did submit a story. So thank you very much to MattSaidWords.
Thank you, Sarah Penguin.
And thank you to No Goodbye. If you want to be like all of these wonderful writers and submit your story to Do the Right Thing, you can do that by putting your story on Reddit at /r/Do the Right Thing. All you have to do is sit down for 30 minutes and write a complete short story using 3 of 4 randomly generated words.
That's right. If you want to see the words as soon as they come out, the best place to do that would be to follow us on Twitter at RightThingCast and to hit that notification bell. That is where you would have seen the notification. We have 2 notifications, 2 things that are changing. One is we're having a new theme, new prompt. That's where you would have seen it. And the other thing is that we are switching our schedule, starting this week. So we're switching to, as I've started a job and Jarvis has started his classes, we're switching to a Sunday release schedule so we can record on the weekend. So the words will be coming out on Saturdays, the deadline is on Fridays, and of course the episode comes out on a Sunday. Normally we would extend it, so we would basically wait a week to make sure that everyone has time, but we've decided just it's spooky month. We want to make sure that we have time for all the spooky things and all the spooky stories. And we didn't want to miss an episode. So we'll actually be doing it a bit earlier this time. So this episode comes out on Wednesday and the deadline will be on Friday. So if you want to get in this week, you can get it in real quick. And if not, that's all right. There's always next week. So I'm excited to see what stories y'all come up with.
Oh yeah, really excited to see what y'all come up with, and hopefully this new schedule works better for all of us.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. So, Alexandra, what is happening in Doof?
Well, there's so much going on in Doof Media. How do I begin? One is that costume contest that I mentioned before. Mm-hmm. Additionally, we also, I don't know if you know this, Travis, but Pale is reaching its conclusion about now, probably. We don't know, but we're pretty sure. And so that means that All Packed Up 2, All Paled Out Beyond the Pale, is just around the corner, and I'm so excited for when that happens. And because I swear to goodness and to goshness that Doof Media has no insider knowledge, we are just speculating, but with the expectation that Pale ends soon, Elliot and Ruben are getting started on preparing that, so Scott and Matt will be leading the game club this month, going forward, and it will be on, I think, The Forgotten City, I think is what it's on, which is a very cool looking game. I wanted to be streaming it, but my computer still can't stream things, so that was unfortunate, but I probably will still play it. Additionally, let me just take a quick look at all the stuff that's going on. Well, one thing is that the Doofcast has started a new deconstructing director series. Guess what it's on? David Cameron. So that's exciting. Okay. Yeah, a lot of actually good movies. It started last week, I think, with Terminator, and this week is Aliens. So tune in to that one and the ones going forward, because obviously there's a bunch of really fun movies.
Well, all right. I think it's high time to roll into next week's words.
Hell yeah. Before we announce words, what is our wonderful theme for the month of Spooktober?
Exactly. So for this nice spooky month, the theme is all is not what it seems. Basically, we are challenging you to write a story about a monster or about a person or a scene where things aren't what they seem. So we want you to surprise us in some way, whether it's a spooky surprise or a dramatic one.
Yeah, it can be really anything that you decide. You could have that straight up as a quote in the story. You can subvert it, whatever else. Just the theme is all is not what it seems. So I'm very excited about that. The idea was that we'd have some stuff with some sneaky monsters or stuff around that, spooky stuff. So I'm excited for it. But what are the words to speak, Jarvis?
The words this week are code, menu, key, and cupboard.
Yeah, so these are a lot of fun. So a code is it's sort of another language, sort of, that makes it harder to understand things. It's
a string of numbers,
information,
yeah,
that is different.
A code word, Morse code.
You can go by a code, which is like a set of rules that you will follow. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's what it's more about. The rules? Yeah. I don't know.
People live by a personal code. Their own ninja way.
Mm-hmm. If you want, you can do something about a coda, which I think is sort of a it's a something. It's something text with text. I don't remember what a coda is. Do you remember what a coda is?
A coda is like you have to get so many things done by a time period, right?
You're thinking quota.
Quota. Yes, sorry.
I'm thinking coda, CODA.
I don't know what that is.
It is the concluding passage of a piece or movement, typically forming an addition to the basic structure, or a concluding event, remark, or section. For example, in a book, right? The last little section, I think. It's more like an added piece after the end, sort of like an epilogue, I guess. But I think there's a sense of separation. I don't know. Anyway. That's different than code, but if you want to, you're allowed. The next word is cupboard, which is the place where you put your cups in the kitchen, ideally. That one wizard boy character lived in one under the stairs. I don't know why there's cups under the stairs, but maybe it's a British thing.
Yeah. I don't know if there are any other definitions for cupboard.
You could make one up. This is a board made of cups.
Yeah. It's, or maybe it's like a alt version of checkers where you use cups instead of. Yeah,
or an alternate world, instead of making the game Cuphead, they made Cupboard. And it's like a surfing game, but with Cuphead.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So there's no shooting, you're just surfing.
You're just surfing and having a good time.
Catching a tasty lick.
Cowabunga. Exactly. Yeah. We should make one of the words when we cowabunga.
Cowabunga, all the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles fanfic. I can see it now.
The next word is menu, which is the thing that people look at restaurants to figure out what they want. It's basically just a way that people look at all the options in a place.
Yeah. It's a list. It's a list of options.
Of options to take. Just like you have menus in the video games. Or in the movie selection screen on your DVD player.
Yes. Special features.
Or, special features. Or whatever else. And the last one is key, which is an object used for unlocking other things, typically in a particular shape. But keys can be anything else. They can also be a metaphorical key. You got a lot of options here.
Yeah. A MacGuffin key, like what the Infinity Stones were a key to power. So
yeah.
So tell me, what fantabulous story are you going to write next week?
I am going to write a story about someone who was at a restaurant. They were traveling and they went in the middle of nowhere, and she went to this restaurant, which was really just like someone's house, right? And got a menu. She was the only person dining there, and there was an old man and an old woman, and they were the ones doing the restaurant, and they gave her the menu, and at the bottom there was a message in code. It was in Morse code. It's just a bunch of dots and dashes. And she read it when they weren't looking. The code said that there would be a key in the salsa. So she ordered the salsa and got the key, and then said she was going to go to the bathroom, but she went to the cupboard. And then she opened the cupboard, and in there was there was brooms. There was a lot of brooms. It was just a message for themselves, and they were like, "Haha, we got you." And she left a bad Yelp review.
I mean, I would too, personally. Send you on a whole ass scavenger hunt for some brooms.
Exactly.
Okay, so my story for next week is going to be a nonfiction story about when I went to this sushi place. Basically, it was jam-packed, so they sat me next to the cupboards. And I noticed that when the waiter went to go and get my menu, he left his roll of keys, all of them glistening gold, shiny, and dangly with their click-clack. So, of course, me being a klepto, I had to steal them. And then I went to the back where, people are working, looking for a door that one of these keys fit in. And then I found it at the very back, on a door that said "Keep Out." So I tried it, and then it turned. But it turns out the door didn't only need a key, but it also needed a code. So as I was at that door, my waiter came up to me holding the menu and said, "You're not supposed to be here." And then I said, "Well, I'm sorry. I was just looking for the restroom." And then they promptly kicked me out of their establishment.
Yeah. And then you left a bad Yelp review.
I left a good Yelp review.
Oh, you did the right thing when it came to leaving Yelp reviews?
I did the right thing.
Hey, can someone leave a Yelp review for us?
Please.
just set a random location in Texas that can count. If we're doing the right thing, give us a good Yelp review. Thank you very much.